Okay, welcome everybody. Today we actually have a special event and a live event with Sean
Hello, everybody.
Maroff. Yeah, Sean is an author of a book called Chaos in Love, and we're going to spend the next part of we're going to spend the next hour actually going through the book, the first few chapters, and then we're also going to spend some time just talking about the way the world is. And this is part of a series and intention for any listeners to understand how Planksip works with authors. And it works really well with Sean as well because it allows anybody that's interested in his book and in his writing, it gives everybody an opportunity to kind of get one-on-one with Sean. So we hope you enjoy the series, and our goal is to actually have 8 of them in total. So here's the first one, and we hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
I, yeah, I hope everybody does too. I'm a bit different, but we'll get into that through the series and you'll understand my mind is not normal.
Yeah, and I can attest to that because I've had several conversations with you. It's not normal, but it's actually, I think, a mind that's based on integrity. And I think that there's probably elements of one of your characters that you're probably thinking of right now that you like to strive towards. Isn't that right, David?
Well, I'm not David. David is the character. Um,
You see how
I would like to
I
be
primed
more
you for
like
that,
him,
right?
yes. But there are people like David in the world, and those are the people that have inspired me in a lot of ways. And it just made sense to write a character like David because those are the kind of people we should all be like. Both David
Right,
and
right, right.
I, when you get into the story, you'll see why.
Right, right. Okay, so we're gonna keep moving along. I've got a ton of questions for you. Try and center your camera just in the center of. You're off to one side a bit there, so just try and stay
Is
kind of
that
center.
better?
Perfect. Yep. Note to yourself: you can actually, cut that out if you wanted. In the editing. Okay, so chaos and love. Let's get right into it. Part of my process that I do when I'm working with an author, and I have to let everybody know I don't have the ability or the time to sit down with every single person. And so that's why we've got a structured tier system at Planksip, and there's things that are free and there's things that cost money. So we're here for you. We're here for authors trying to develop a platform and get their work seen and their branding developed. Okay, so here we are in Sean's book, which I'm enjoying, by the way. I'm just at the end of chapter 3 so that I don't, at this point in recording it, have to backtrack and think, what was I thinking at the end of chapter 3? So the audience is in for the same ride that I'm in, pretty much.
Stand by.
Pretty
I have
much.
no idea where he's going to go with this yet, folks. Yeah.
Okay, so anyways, let's see here. The first page is page 3.
Well, that's because I've got the dedications, and of course, there's a page break between those two. So,
Oh yeah, the audience is going to forgive you for that.
well, this is still the rough draft. This is, how do I put it? Even though it's getting finished to go to an actual editor, at this point, this is my rough draft, and that's what we're reading on.
Right, and so everybody has to understand the reason why we're projecting this here and showing it for everybody is that this is quite honestly something that we can do for you if you're in a similar stage in your production in your writing. So okay, so Sean, let me read this out loud here. Um, this is a section that I highlighted, and then I was questioning the believability of someone actually speaking like this. Now, I mean, don't take offense to it at all. This is when I do a first draft reading of something. I'm really trying to make it believable for myself. Like I'm trying to reconcile this in a few different ways. And Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, but let's be honest with the readers. We discussed this section because I honestly asked you if you thought it was believable, and you said you didn't even give it a thought until
Right.
I
So I
had to go
wonder,
back and look at it.
is this the section that we're talking about? This one here?
Where Jason and David get face to face for the first time in the book. Yes, but they've known
Okay,
each other
okay,
before,
okay.
which
So
is going to
yeah,
be obvious.
okay. So yeah, let me read this then, and then because I do remember that absolutely, I did. But and trust me, I didn't go back and add the note. But um, let me just read this here. So it says, "Not at all. David is a brilliant man, and it's paramount to practice safety at the highest standards in his business. Otherwise, the results could quickly become disastrous. I have a lot of respect for him because he goes the extra mile to ensure everyone is safe. He is uncompromising about that." Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So I understand. Like the sentence before that, it says you're making excuses for him. So he is very defensive, and he's trying to sound factual and as a matter of fact, but he's not being a jerk. Is this kind of the idea?
Yeah, Jason was talking to Angela at this point because David had not answered her phone call because he was driving on a mountain passageway, two-lane county road for that matter, a very dangerous driving situation. So he didn't answer his phone, and she was upset. And
Yeah.
she expressed that to Jason, and Jason told her, no, that's not the case. This is what's going on. Because
Huh.
Jason knows how David is.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. And this is part of what I wanted to just have a conversation about. This is the process, right? These are the types of things that come to mind for me when I do a first pass on a reading, and then after that, I actually settle into the book. I understand where the story's going. I understand the context, and then I can go back and do some finer level editing, right?
Right.
Okay. Okay, so then we actually jump to this next point on chapter or page 11. And this is where I believe David is saying, I know I run an unconventional company, but I run the most ethical company on earth.
David has a very high ethics level. He pays his people for their production, not just their work. In this case, Cynthia had come up with the design for the launch platforms, and he was just reminding her that yes, he can and will pay her royalties if they sell, if that design becomes a sales point for his company. You know?
Right, right, right. And they're built on a strong, strong ethic. So what I like about this in the philosophical mind that I have is that you're making a really, really strong statement here when you say I run the most ethical company on earth. So this is very close to about as strong a philosophical statement on ethics as someone can make. And I do feel strongly that whether philosophy emerges out of fiction or nonfiction, what and how you show this throughout the book is going to be telling of what how you envision an ethics, uh, partly, but how you embody it through the life of the character, which is the most important thing, right?
Right.
Okay,
Well,
so there you
let
go.
me explain. My best definition of ethics that I've ever read, and I honestly believe, is doing the right thing even when nobody is looking.
Right, 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 right. And of course, that has a direct heuristic that it can play on with the Almighty Himself or herself looking down on somebody, right? If you
Yeah.
always operate with the idea that somebody's kind of watching what you're doing, then you kind of act differently, and it the emotion on it can go both ways. You can look at that as tyrannical, or you can look at it as someone that's there supporting and loving and this type of thing, right? So
Right. It doesn't have, see, the nice thing about that particular definition, it's you watching yourself if you don't believe in a God, Or if you do believe in God, you're always accepting that God's always watching you, and therefore you got to do the right thing for Him. But if you don't believe in a God and you look at it from an atheistic point of view, it's you watching out for yourself, really.
Yeah, and these are one of the things that there's a bit of a circular argument that or learning path that I've gone on with this is that the way you described it is a very conciliant sort of approach. So what that means is that the two systems are very compatible, right?
Yeah, they
And
really are. It makes no difference. It
yeah,
really
and
doesn't.
it's actually a kind of language that we have that I think many people think to themselves, right? It's something that I guess encourages a multicultural society, which throughout history we have found is ideal for everybody getting along, right? Like,
Yeah,
just however people come to their conclusions, if they use any kind of mythical or magical or purely empirical type of thinking, then just as long as everybody agrees to the basic same ethical outcome of being good, being a good decent person, right?
right.
And that's not an exact prescription, but the thing is that it is out there, and for the most part, people understand, what direction that is, right? I mean, you kind of know if you're being a jerk, sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so anyways, I do like that, and I think that our our modern description of atheism is something that comes into object in that sort of conciliant approach, right? So if someone's called an atheist, they're called a non-believer, and this is something that is an extreme on one side, right? Because the non-belief really happens to be about the dogmatic, absolute approach, right? If you said to an atheist, "Can you imagine and pretend that there was a God and that He helped people in their lives just by them thinking of him or her or whatever, right? The atheist would say, sure, yeah. I mean, people can pretend and that's fine, but just, don't try and um, impose that it's actually real on this planet in this reality that we live in, right? That's kind of their standpoint,
Okay, here's the thing. I don't try to impose my beliefs on any person. I've
right?
learned that's an extremely bad idea.
Yeah.
And that's really not the way we're supposed to promote whether God is real or not. Uh, my stance is the universe itself is so precise in so many ways and works so well. It's like a big machine that's constantly in operation. And of course, there's going to be problems. It's what it is. But it's it's so precise in so many ways that I have a hard time accepting that it wasn't set in motion by somebody because it
Mm,
just you know it just is just what it is to me.
yeah.
you know and I don't care if you believe or not. That's not my place to tell you you have to. you know
Okay.
but
Okay.
my
Okay.
stance is, with everything I've been through and everything I've observed, somebody had to start this whole thing. you know
Mm,
and I that's just the way I see it. You don't have to. I don't care if you do or don't. But as
yeah.
long as you don't push your ideals on me to the point that we start arguing about it, to the point where we just get hateful to each other, you know, you have your points, I have my points. The way I see it, the way you see it, are always going to be different. No two people see the same thing the same way. That's a proven fact. That's why eyewitness testimonies are so bad to rely on when it comes to what happened, because nobody sees the
Interesting.
same thing the same way. And that's
Right.
the
Okay.
thing. You
All
know?
right. Well, let's move on to another very interesting aspect that kind of caught my attention is someone is telling him that David was a man of ethics, and someone says, most ethical man I have ever met. right? And so I highlighted that because I was like, I mean, not only is David imagining a company that is the most ethical in the world, he's serious about being, striving for that perfective, that perfected ethic, right? And so
Right.
you're seeing actually people around him also say that he's super ethical. And I think the value out of this is that the readers are going to want to engage with the novel, right? Because they can see this kind of conversation going on. I think that's important to point out.
Yeah. As you go through, especially while you're in chapter three, so that's where things really start happening and get hairy and all sorts of hell breaks loose, is in chapter three. You're going to see how David reacts to that and how he handles it and goes, okay, this is what we got to do. This is what we got to do. He always tries to plan things out, but he's also smart enough to know that plans don't always work. And he's willing to go into chaos mode to take on what's happened and fix it as much as possible. You know,
Interesting, interesting. I should point out for readers that Sean is a his writing style is very much a dialogue, and so there's not a lot of set the scene sort of paragraphs. And I think you had spoken about before that there's some people that have offered advice to say that's not really the conventional way to do it, or so on and so forth. So before I give you a chance to answer that, I'm going to say that um, our style at Plank Sip is just a little bit more experimental, right? And so I realize that there's some rules out there that are kind of hard, fast rules, and then there's other rules that are more in that sort of gray area. And what I will tell you is that reading Sean's book is, for me, and I'm only on chapter 3. It has commanded my attention. There is a flow. I can see the story building. There is tension. All of the main core components that I'm looking for. And so, it seems to me in the first little bit that you're pulling it off, Sean. And whatever you're doing, it's okay.
okay, well, I will say this. I'm not the first person to write a novel like this. I won't be the last either. It is considered the hardest style to both write and read, mostly because it takes a bit of mental gymnastics to pay attention to who's talking. And I know that. But if I made a tag on every sentence when somebody said something, it would add thousands and thousands of words to the script or the manuscript, I should say. And honestly, that's ridiculous. I'm in good company. Virginia Woolf herself wrote books of this style.
Right, right. I remember telling me about that. Yeah.
You know, there is actually a best-selling novel out there that was nothing but dialogue, absolutely zero scene setting, and it only had two characters, and it was the whole book was them just talking to each other, and it sold very well.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, and I'm not meaning to back you into the corner there. I think that the readers will like it actually because I'm enjoying it, and I'm not having to. I will say that it. Okay, now tell me if this is an impression, and again, it's not meant to offend anybody, but there's an element to your writing that actually feels like it could be like a TV show almost, or a series or something, you know?
It's possible, and I thought about that as I wrote it, but I wasn't writing it for that purpose. I
Right. I
was
mean, I'm reading it and I'm getting like the NCIS sort of a feeling, like I don't know if you watch that series on TV, but it has a military feel to it, and there's banter back and forth between people. There's lots of dialogue, but then there's this whole like all the scenes moving behind them and stuff like that, and so the focal point is the dialogues, right,
right.
between
It's
the
a dialogue
characters,
driven story. That's no secret at all. You
right?
know.
So it to me it seems like it would make like a good TV series or like a small like mini series or something like that, depending on, or even a movie or something, or TV episode, TV series or episode or something,
Well, that's quite possible, but like I said, that was not my intention when I was writing it.
Okay,
So,
okay,
the whole underscoring theme of this book is about communication and uh, talking. So the dialogue, and when you talk and you learn from each other, you start to understand each other, and things will actually work better. That's the whole theme of the book, really. You
right,
know,
okay, okay. Okay, I don't know if that's a cigarette in your hand, but you're more than welcome to have a cigarette. It
well, I
doesn't
know.
bother
I'm
me.
I'm just holding it for now because I just
Okay,
finished one a couple of minutes ago. It's my
okay,
normal stupid bad habit.
yeah. Well, okay, so the next one here I put on page 12, I said, I like how you repeat what's going on here. I.e., you gave an earlier warning or primed the reader about the Air Force having to come to fly the drones. So I do like this here that and I'll just read it out loud. It says, not quite, but there's a stipulation that you're not piloting. Kevin called the Air Force Academy and they're sending an experienced drone pilot. You're allowed to oversee and assist with showing him or her the unique controls of those drones. But anyways, I just was making the note that I liked how you actually repeated that, and so I noticed that this is how you're pulling some of the plot through the dialogue, which is good.
Well, this is more realistic than most people will realize. Um, Here's the thing: we're dealing with a very dangerous situation within the book. There was a dynamite cache that exploded. David is absolutely sure of that, even though Angela's kind of on the border of that for the moment. And so he goes in and he says, okay, here's how we can fix it, and and they get the pilot they need, and the Air Force is sending the person over, and he's just letting uh, Tim know, the guy who built the drones, designed and built them, that this is what we have to do in order to get them out there and take a look at what the hell's going on. And so that is just simply that. You know, it's
Cool.
letting it's just letting somebody important at this point in the story know what the hell's going on. Again, going
Yeah.
back to communication.
Yeah. Okay, good. I like that. That's a good explanation. And on to the next point. Um, when I now this is maybe a suggestion. I think there's aspects of what what you explain in your dialogue that is incredibly is technical, but there is an instance here where it says the chemical sensor unit, right? And so my note to myself, as I said, I'm not sure if we need more information here. Is this a credible enough description of of the technology, right? And so what do you think? I mean, I didn't know if it was jarring to me. I just thought, what is a chemical sensor unit? You know what I mean? Like, what is that sort of thing?
Okay, these exist. What they do is they have a sensor that is designed to pick up certain chemical traces within the air, and that is what it's doing. But here's the problem: in order to explain what it is, I would have to go into about 100-word description.
Mm.
That's a big chunk of word count, and
Yeah.
so I just kind of left it as it is. Let people know what it was, but not how it worked, what it was going to be looking for. I mean, but it makes enough sense to leave it alone because people will figure it out as we talk about it.
Now,
You
so
know?
here's a question. Do you think that, um, I mean, this kind of cuts both ways, but do you think it would be worthwhile to, you might hate me for this, but like integrate some sort of a, oh, what do you call it when you call it like a CSU, right? Like when people are
No, they don't
talking,
call it that at all. They used full name for a good reason.
oh, they do, eh?
Yeah.
They came, okay, okay. So just asking, okay. And you know what I do like about making these notes is that and I quite often do this with authors, is that I bring up these silly questions, right? Because it's not in my mind. I didn't write it, but if something comes to my mind, I make sure I jot it down when I'm reading, because then it's up to you if you want to use that information, right? It's real live. It's like a beta reader, which we were looking for, right, John?
Yeah, we're still looking for a good beta reader. You
Yeah.
know,
So I think you wanted
I've
what?
got, I've got beta read asks out on both Facebook and Edit Out Loud, and so far nothing. You know,
Oh, interesting. Okay, well, let's if we make the video productions good here, again, we use those clips, and that's part of the Planksip workflow. It allows you to have these types of things for, for promotion, right?
right?
Okay. All right. So moving on to the next one. Okay. So okay, here I'm just making the point about NCIS. I've already made that point, and I think I did it in a rather complimentary way, actually, because I said that it's something maybe like a TV show or something. So,
Right.
anyways, Mr. Harrison, I don't know what your game is, but I will find out if you are in any way violating any law or regulation, right? So, um, that kind of prompted me to say, yeah, this just sounds like something I would hear on a TV show. You know what I mean?
Well, you would hear it in real life too.
Yeah, yeah,
If have you, I don't think you've ever been under investigation, but I have been in situations where investigations have happened. Case in point, my ship was out at sea when two P3s plowed into each other by accident. Now, I know the cause of it, and I will not go into that discussion because it's actually a rather sad tale. But the truth is, when that happens and people that were observant or observers, they get grilled hard.
yeah,
And that was my experience with that because they want to know what happened. So they're going to go to the people that were witnesses, were on station, on watch, and all of that, and they grill the hell out of you. So uh, these kind of things actually do happen.
hmm,
Somebody's looking for somebody to be at fault. Well, see, here's the thing. Within the first three chapters, it's established David bought property in Colorado, and on that property was an old mining town, and the people that ran that mining town left it a whole lot of dynamite behind. And it's old, sweaty, it's ready to go. It won't take much, and that's
right,
what's going on. The first one exploded, got everybody's attention, um, and so that's why David is there. It's his property. He's got it. He's the one who needs to figure out what happened and whether it can happen again. Angela is there is because she's supposed to be observing, but because she's a federal agent and a bureaucrat, she's looking at David with a lot of skepticism. She honestly at first believes he was at fault because it's just the way it is in the real world. In most of these kind of situations, it's somebody screwed up big time, and it's usually the person who's going to try to cover it up, and she's thinking that's what David's up to, even though that's not it at all. He is as curious as what happened as she is. He wants the truth, and he wants to make sure it's not going to happen again, but it does.
hmm,
Um, and so she's putting him under a microscope, and he even acknowledges that because in the next line he says, "Agent Johnson, you are hardly the first person or first one to put me under a microscope, so to speak. However, I follow the law to the letter and make sure I keep my nose clean." You know,
yeah,
so he's saying, "Look, yeah, I know this is a bad situation." He admits that. He knows that it's not by the book in any way, shape, or form, but there's nothing by the book at all under these circumstances. And
yeah,
so, so he's doing what he's got to do to make it work. And, he's, and she's looking at him with that skeptical eye, thinking that he's trying to cover something up, which he's not. And that's where they meet, and that's how they meet. And of course,
Right.
that'll change in time because, of course, they're going to develop that love interest with each other. But uh, you know, he's acknowledging what she's doing. He's aware of it, and he's not holding it against her, but he's letting her know he's not playing that game, and he's not going to allow her to get in his way.
Yeah,
So,
that's really cool. Okay, so let's talk about the game. So this one says, Mr. Harrison, I don't know what your game is, but I'll find out if you are in any way violating any laws or regulation. So that was the precipice. She's used to that sort of that type of thing. Is that what you're saying?
yes,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
okay. Okay, well that's so that I noticed that there was a little bit of a backstory there and stuff of ethics going on. It's adding to some credibility, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay. Now, here's one. It seems the sequence of the conversation seemed a little awkward to me. So it said, "So you need those drones doing what they're here to do soon." Or man, okay, sorry. So you need those drones doing what they're here to do soon. Okay. I have preferred yesterday, right? And
Yeah.
so I didn't
Think
I didn't
about it.
know.
He's in a bad situation. He wants to find out what's going on. He wants to get those drones out there, and he would have liked to have it done before they're even talking at this point.
Yeah,
So,
maybe it's a grammar thing. Like I would have preferred yesterday, or would have, or, I don't know. So it seems awkward when I'm reading something and I'm writing it myself. Even I think, oh, maybe. So there was one maybe to look at.
well, how do I put it? That is just a statement. A statement. It means very little in the grand scheme of the timeline. It's only him saying he wished it was sooner than later.
Yeah,
And that's a very common statement people will make when they're in a situation like that, where they would rather have started earlier on getting the solution and the answers. And that's where he's at. He honestly would have liked to have gotten to this point a lot earlier. You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
and that's
Okay,
that's
so
why he makes that statement.
yeah, no, I understand. I hear you. Okay, so the next thing I'd say is I like how the conversation. Now this is I'm highlighting an entire page, right? So I
Yeah,
say I like how the conversation about the drone creates tension. I want to know what's so special about these drones. As a reader, I mean, this is I'm kind of like I'm. This is kind of what's holding me to my seat. I'm like I see drones around us. You can go to the a local place and buy a drone, right? But what's these military ones? What's really so special about them, right? And
they're
and
not
that
military; they're actually industrial.
or sorry, yeah, industrial, yeah. So I'm curious about why they're so industrial, and I mean I can make an assumption that they're just more resilient, they have more features, and they're designed so that they don't crap out and break. I mean all sorts of stuff. Even
Right.
though there's some problems as you know in that sort of regard too, right?
Right.
Okay, so now what I'm wondering here, and I made a note, is this: is I can't visualize a poor speaking genius. Now, there's part of that where you say, um, poor speaking genius, right? And I can't really visualize a poor speaking genius, right? I can kind of do that, but I just don't know. Like, it doesn't really fit a stereotype. Like, it might
No,
be
if you're talking about David, no, he doesn't fit any stereotype. And that's
right.
brought up much later in the story. He doesn't fit into one category. As a matter of fact, it's not brought up in this book, but it's brought up that David can act like any level in society, talk at any level in society, but he's still David no matter how he acts or talks.
Right. Okay.
And
All
then
right.
the bottom line is David knows how to adjust his way of talking to connect with people. He could be a high class gentleman and then turn around and be a street thug, but he's still himself either way. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. Moving on to the next part. Okay, so this one was, it says, you could, Angela, but the point is you need to determine why you're doing what you're doing. Now, I said, I wonder how this would be interpreted in today's politically correct world. Would a feminist say this is unknown prompting of her colleague about her inner feelings? Or, like I know it's two guys talking about, and you're the guy, you're the author, you're a male, basically created Angela, right? And so now I'm trying to think, because basically somebody's telling a woman the way she's, kind of what's good for her, what she is thinking, like check yourself, Angela, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, but
And so,
that's not, to me, that's just two people. People has nothing to do with man or woman because both men and women go through this. We all do at some point in our life. Why are we acting the way we are with this particular person?
hey, Sean, pause for a minute. You're way up now, so you got to adjust your camera up, or
Oh, I sat up. Okay.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's perfect. Your head can't go up much more. Okay, so then let's say that again, from from my response, and now you just go ahead into what you're going to say. Just how people talk together. It's just
Right.
natural.
Yeah. These are just two people who know each other well enough to know to be able to talk like this to each other. And all he's saying to her is, you're doing this for a reason, but I don't think you are aware of exactly the reason why you're doing it. And so he just tells her that. And people do talk like that to each other, especially if they know each other well enough to be able to. Doesn't matter
Yeah,
whether it's man woman, woman woman, man man dynamics. People do honestly talk this way when it comes to being that friend that says, "Hey, check yourself.
yeah.
Understand? You need to check yourself and figure out why you're doing what you're doing."
And it's not a male female thing. It's just a friend thing.
Exactly. They're both agents. I mean, he might be FBI and she's on Homeland Security, but they've obviously have had interaction, have talked before, because you kind of see that. I mean, even though he's not a main character and he's just there in the background for the most part, but when he does come involved, you can tell that he's known some of these people before, her included. So, it's not a big deal, really.
Yeah, no, no, okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. And this is a part of the process. I think that as I go through this, I'm just kind of curious. I'm just kind of putting the puzzle pieces together. And this is sometimes the difference between, somebody, maybe how an audience is reading it versus how you've kind of imagined the story, right? And so, yeah, I hope it's good for people, tuning in, right?
Right.
Okay, so now you have here, you could, Angela, but the point is you need to determine why you're doing what you're doing. Okay, now I don't know why. Uh, I think again, this is just an extension on what we were previously talking about. This is just friends talking to friends about, um, yeah, just kind of like helping each other out socially. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, okay. Now, were Lucy and Ethel horses?
No, Lucy and Ethel are the drones.
Okay, all right. I
That's
missed
made
that.
clear. That's made clear in the first chapter.
Yeah, okay, so I missed that somehow, right? And okay,
Well,
all right.
okay, okay. If we go back to when David was parked at the Vista Point before he got to the camp, he tells Tim that he has Lucy and Ethel in the back of his truck, and they're both secured, so they traveled safely. They weren't bouncing around in their crates and all of that. And he's and it's very obvious at that
Yeah.
point when he's talking about the drones. You
Yeah,
know,
okay. Okay. All right. So let's go on to the next one about David's personality and that makes him like larger than life billionaire, not because he is, but because he acts like he should be. David's ambitions are huge.
yes,
But there's a part of David in terms of his ambitions that are huge because they were forced to be huge. He's a simple guy. Things are put in front of him, and he's got to put them in order, basically.
right.
It's not like
It's not. No, David has ambitions that are beneficial, not just for him.
yeah.
But he's looking at, you know, he has several businesses, and the two biggest one he's got going is the research and development labs that he runs to help developers, inventors, and the like to get their products patented and in their control, so that they are in control of them, not some corporation that somehow gets a hold of them, takes them away, whatever, you
Okay.
know. And David, as you go through this, you learn David's a victim of that himself, and that's why he started that company.
That's right. Yep. And that comes out. That filled in a lot of the backstory for me.
Right. And you get a lot more fill in. I mean, the backstory is slowly added in through the whole book. And there's a lot of reason for that. Because if I did the backstory in the beginning, I'd lose everybody. And that's
Yeah,
the
that's right. That's right. So just a side note, we're going to go from a big thematic thing to here. I'm just pointing out there's the use of R and then spelled AN and then D. I didn't know if technically R and then the ampersand D would be better. This is really a question for an editor, but it somehow, for some reason didn't look right there.
yeah.
That's the point, right? We're just now reiterating that, it's our working copy, and I
Well, you're
hope that,
reading it right now. That's still the working copy at this point. I have
yeah,
fixed
that's right.
some little things here and there recently, but it's not. It did not change any part of the story in any way. It was just little bits of like the a word in the wrong spot that I thought I had already fixed that I missed. I found it again, fixed it this time. That kind of thing.
Yeah, make sure before you send us a like another copy, we can, or if there's a more revised copy, because our next step here is to actually put this into an EPUB and have it so that it's you know uh available for like a pre-order sort of thing
Right.
on the
Yeah, that's
site.
not a problem. And I'm just waiting on what little notes you're going to have for me to look over and see if, there's something I should change, because I'm one set of eyes. I'm one person and I'm going to miss things because I wrote the story and I know what's in my head, but I don't know what's in other people's heads. If I don't explain something clearly enough, I may have to go back and fix that.
That's
As I,
right. Okay, perfect. Well, we're here to help you out, just like anybody that also wants to,
yeah,
do the similar type of engagement. So, the drones are the tension device here. And I like the story that it's getting complicated. Okay.
yeah,
And, like the drone issue is getting is becoming more of an issue, like I won't get into some of the way it develops, but there's a lot of tension going on around those drones, isn't there?
right. Well, at this point, we're learning right here at the beginning of chapter 3. David is helping Tim go over both the drone schematics and the chemical sensor schematics, and he's got his laptop set up to act as a oscilloscope. And everybody should know pretty much what an oscilloscope is. And I'll leave it at that because if you need a description of it, it's a long, drawn out description of what that device is. And,
Yeah.
you know, and so he's using that to trace signals and see what the heck is going on. And when he realizes that this is actually not what he ordered and is something completely different, he goes kind of ballistic. He doesn't blow up, but he's close to it because
Right.
somebody is trying to cause a bad, bad situation at this point.
Right, right. And so it's interesting here now. I'm on chapter 3, and I wrote a note to myself here about the brand, a model he ordered, and it was not a chemical sensor, and he was livid about learning about sabotage and all this kind of stuff, right?
Right.
So I think that point, I made a note to myself. One potential thematic leitmotif through this book could be technology as the antagonist add-on, visible for all to see. Now,
Oh, it becomes that, believe me.
right. So
Well,
that's kind of
not
what
too
I
much
was,
yet, but yes, it becomes an issue very quickly.
and I think that readers, this helps me in my writing as well, and something that I advise to other writers is that what are you trying to say when you're doing this, and realizing that sometimes it just happens naturally as writers. We write about these things, but there's largely, or there's quite a distinct possibility that novels start to show a larger kind of narrative that just surfaces, right? And if in years from now somebody said that Sean's book was such a novel, and they classify it and they say that the struggle there was actually between David and the technology, it's quite possible you could write the story that way. And as a reader, I'm drawn into that type of thing. And then whether it turns out that way, and maybe the conflict, other conflicts come up. Maybe it's a David versus a somebody who's actually personally trying to sabotage him, right? Or is it just the nature of the technology? It's yet to be seen because I'm only in chapter 3, right?
Well, it's kind of both. How do I put this?
But don't tell me, right? You can't tell me because I gotta learn it as I'm reading it,
right.
right? But
But this does open a plot hole, but I do close that plot hole eventually. Here's the
okay,
thing.
good.
This is how real life really is. Something comes up where you realize there's something going on. You don't know if it's a person. You don't know if it's a, international situation. You don't know if it's a corporation. All David knows is somebody's trying to screw with him, and he's not happy about it. And of course, an investigation eventually gets launched, and David becomes involved in that. That brings up its own issues. So, this is how life works. Something
Yeah,
like this, if it comes up, it brings on a whole lot of problems. Now,
yeah,
David deals with them as each step of those problems happens. He accepts it, works with it, talks to the right people, lets the people do their investigation. He works with them because he knows he's not the one they're worried about anymore. This
yeah,
brings up a whole other issue. And
yeah.
when David finds out who's really involved, he's more than prepared to deal with it because he's playing a four-dimensional field in life. He looks at everything. You
Nicely
know,
said. Nicely said. Yeah, and exploring that fourth dimension is, something that we can only imagine, right? Okay,
we can all do
so
it. We're all capable of it. The thing of it is we're taught to work three-dimensionally most of the time.
yeah, so okay, so here I've got he wasn't a greener or anything so radical, and you have to imagine that your good friend at the other end of this video line uh, considers himself a greener, I guess, in your in the language of
Okay.
David, right?
And where I come from, you know about the Evergreen State College, right?
The which one?
The Evergreen State College.
Oh yes, yeah.
I
The
grew up right by that college.
okay, okay, okay.
And you know how radical they are there, you
Yeah,
know. And they're called greeners. And so I use that as the way to say, look, I'm all for fixing the problems, but I'm not out for hurting people to fix the problems. You know,
right, right. And that's what the greeners represent. They're gonna fix things no matter how many people it hurts. Is basically the idea.
yeah. Well, like I said, you know how radical that college is. It wasn't that radical when I grew up by it. I used to go over there and work on their mainframe computer to learn how to program and things like that. And so I know that college. I knew it. I knew it back in the '70s when I was in high school, and today it just saddens me to see what's going on there. You
Yeah.
know, you know.
So, do you, on a side note about Evergreen, did you know about Brett and Brett Weinstein and
Oh yes, I know about that whole situation.
oh, okay, okay,
And I
yeah,
don't want to do a political debate about it because I agree with both sides a little bit, but at the same time, I'm like, why are you? Why do we have to go through this? This is totally ridiculous.
hmm,
This is stupid. and beyond logic, as far as I'm concerned. And that's attacking both sides of the situation. Neither
Okay.
side is trying to communicate with each other. They're just screaming at each other. It makes no damn sense to me, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll leave that for a separate episode, probably. Okay. So, um, okay. Now there's something here where it says, God bless them. They're some of the best people on earth, he said, and as he sat up and started removing the top of his clothes. It's like, dun, dun, dun. Is it getting sort of tense in there? Like a little bit of sexual tension in there, kind of thing, right?
A
And
little bit.
so,
I put that in. I put a little bit of sexual tension in there on purpose. But what he's talking about the people that run the tribal post.
yeah,
Okay, and you being in Canada, you know what a tribal post is, right?
yeah.
Okay, so he's just super tense at this point. Everything is just becoming a problem, and Angela realizes that he's just about to lose it. So she goes and talks to Shoshone about something that'll, get him to relax without drugging him or inebriating him, or and they say here, and they find out it's for David, and they know, wait, we've got something even better type thing here, and let me show you how to use it so it'll help him. See what David has. It's not mentioned yet in the book, but David has done something special for the Shoshone because, again, not already mentioned, but I'm going to go ahead and mention it because it won't spoil anything. David is part Native American, like I am. That's about the only trait of myself I put into David.
Hmm.
Um, I'm actually Blackfoot uh, descendant. I'm about a quarter Blackfoot. I made David a quarter Sioux because it's not because Blackfoot are an offshoot of the Sioux. But in all honesty, he helps the Native Americans.
Hmm.
He does things for them to prove where they're at. Because let's face it, that part of my ancestry is still getting the shaft to this day.
So I do want to bring this up. I didn't anticipate that. I just actually didn't know, Sean, that you had a little bit of that in your background. But in Canada, there are some, I guess, like governmental incentives for people who have like a native ancestry. I think a documented native ancestry, I think, would probably be the thing. Is that your category?
Kind of, sort of. My dad did not register, so I would have a very hard time registering. I could do it if I wanted to. I just don't want to go through the hassle. It would be years and years and years of paperwork. I've done that for the military. I'm done with that as much as I can. I don't
Yeah,
want.
and
You know,
I would also say, just as a, not like the listeners, if they're totally into wanting to understand what your backstory is, I want to just say that I do also have a similar type of background. Mine's not 1/4, but it's 1/16. Okay, and so that the only
that's
reason I know that, yeah, it starts to pretty much disappear. But the issue is that, like, I do realize, like, my mother was 1/8. Um, and or maybe I'm 1/8. I mean, this is how blurry it is, right? This is how I'm not entirely sure.
the
Um,
only way that you're going to truly find out is to do a DNA test.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I
So
mean a true DNA test, not this 23andMe. I'm talking about going in, get in a blood draw, let them analyze your blood and determine your true DNA profile.
yeah, okay.
So,
So, anyways, okay. All I'm saying is, well, it's probably not an option for either one of us to get involved with any of those kind of dedicated programs, but it is part of the conversation in both Canada and the U.S. So it's interesting.
yeah.
Okay, so there is a time and place, Angela. This isn't it. She left knowing he was right. The flirting and the baiting had to stop for now. So the thing is that this interaction between David and Angela is getting quite interesting, and he still maintains a kind of real firm line with her. And so that interaction just kind of caught kind of had me chuckle a little bit, right?
Yeah,
Like
he's very much
down,
aware.
woman.
Yeah, he's very much aware if this got out of hand, where it could go, and he knows that's bad for both of them. So
Yeah,
he's
that's right.
we've got to watch what we're doing right now. Once all this, we could continue on later, but right now it has to stop. And that's all he's saying, you know. And and she becomes respectful of what he's saying because she understands he's not just doing it for himself, he's doing it for her. Because she could be in the doghouse just as much as he could if they are not careful about how they're starting to develop their feelings for each other, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, my next one had to do with this statement here. Bottom line, if it wasn't for David and Jeanette, my cousin, I would not have been able to make it through school. And I got to the end of this dialogue, and again, I was thinking about believability and convincing, and I thought that my hubris here was that of comparing a dialogue to the metaphysical imaginings of Plato, interestingly enough. And it's difficult for me to detach from the representational views of an orthodox sort of interpretation of Plato when I read him. But I'm very much at home reading dialogues with different representations, and so my only criticism was that I thought in a heavy dialogue sort of read, um, I my hubris might give me a poor ability to say whether it's believable because I don't need to have it as believable. I think as most people do in order to understand your meaning. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
So
see, what you failed to mention before going to this is it was just revealed that Cynthia is actually David's half little sister. They have
yeah,
different fathers, but the same mother. Um, and that's a big part of where this line comes from, because you're going to find out just the kind of man that they grew up with. Her father was not really a good man. Um, he was very much tyrannical,
oh
and
wow, yeah,
you know, and so Cynthia, in order to pursue her personal interests in engineering, had to be very careful, especially before she got off to college. And David was in the background making sure that happened for her because he understood that's what she wanted to do with her life, you know?
yeah. Okay, well,
So
this is where we're going to actually start with our next episode. Is David's head throbbed hard, and he could feel his blood pressure rise. So it's the video from the drones was not good. So, anyways, there's some more tension there coming around the drones in the next episode.
actually, this
We're
is at the point where the drones really start taking a backseat. They've taken their pictures now. They know what's going on. And this is after, now remember, this is after the big explosion that happened. Where
right.
predators
Okay.
were taking pictures of the valley, and they saw it happen through one of the drone's cameras where the roof of a warehouse collapsed. And let's just say it's not hard to figure out what was in that warehouse.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, this is,
Yeah.
it was a huge explosion. It was causing avalanches, and a lot of damage happened. And it made earthquake like tremors that the road that they came up on, gone for the most part. They're not going to be able to drive back down. And so this is where we're starting with David is just basically at his edge. Even he could only take so much, and this is where it happens. You know,
Gotcha. 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 Okay. Well, do you want to leave it there and then pick it up next
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 week,
week?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, Sean, you've been a wonderful guest, and we've got another 7 full episodes to go through, and I hope the readers and the listeners, the viewers, I hope they join us on this journey, either in the live event or in the recording that we'll leave behind. So this is the type of work that we do with authors. Planksip.org. This is our company, and Sean is a Planksip author. So I hope to see you guys on the other side, and subscribe and like, and just be part of the ecosystem. Thanks, guys.
Okay, I do want to say something real quick before we sign off. People, I'm very happy to have joined the Plake Sip family. And you have to understand, this came about rather interestingly. He contacted me about a couple of things, and we just started talking. And David and I have a good rapport with each other. And if you haven't noticed how we talk, that's actually kind of how we talk. I mean, we go a little bit more in depth than when we're personally talking, but we have a good rapport, and we honestly have a lot of fun talking to each other and coming up with ideas. And you're going to see some of those ideas get developed into Plankson. I have given him so many ideas and different ways to look at things that it's not funny, and he's done the
Yes.
same for me. And so, please, please take a look at what's going on. You're going to see things happen very quickly and maybe slowly in some other ways, because it takes time to develop ideas to a working level that helps people. But that's what this platform is about, helping people. And that's why I'm so glad to be a part of it, because I feel the same way. The more you actually help people, the better off you are with yourself. And that's my belief. I believe that's David's belief as well. And so here we are. Uh, you honestly should take a good look at this platform. And if it fits you, you should honestly become a part of it.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate
You're
that.
welcome. Yeah.
Okay. Over and out. Thanks for joining. Talk to you later.
Everybody have a great day.